Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Every Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can find us here on freedomslips.com. We're simulcast on cjmartinsradio.com, 365 Live, hazyradio.com, and we're also on Friday nights, we're on WTRU Radio. Okay, but on WTRU Radio, we're actually competing with ourselves because they play a podcast over there, so we're not live over there. Maybe in the future we will be. And, of course, we're rebroadcast throughout the week on awakeradio.us and firehorseradio.com. Don't forget, Saturday mornings, we're on Blog Talk Radio on Penny Entertainment. Okay, and I really want to welcome all the new listeners from Blog Talk Radio, Penny Entertainment, and WTRU, because we got a ton of response from these new listeners last week, which kind of got me started. I got a little rant I did on Facebook about being contacted before the show. So if you're a new listener and you want to find out where to catch all the old archives, the best place to go is to go to the Opperman Report Spreaker.com account, and you follow us on Spreaker, and you can hear all the archives of the old shows. Also, all the old shows, including tonight's show, will be on the Opperman Report YouTube channel, so you can always go there and catch it over there. But keep in mind, this is a listener-sponsored station. We have no corporate sponsors, so if you want to support our station, you have to visit freedomslips.com and click on the donate button. I've got a couple of shout-outs there. I want to give a shout-out to Cindy Jean-Pierre, who's one of the station owners, who's always with us here Friday night, helping to produce the show. And she lost her dad. She had a death in the family. And so we just want to extend our thoughts and our prayers to the family over there, and hope that everything goes nice and smooth for her this week. Okay, so our prayers are with Cindy Jean-Pierre. And also Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo. She also had a friend with an illness, a very serious illness this week, so we want to extend our prayers to them as well. Okay, let's see. One more thing is that we had a lot of response to last week's show. Last week we had Bill Scott, the father of Eric Scott, the young man that was shot and killed in Costco. And then we had Mike Smith, also known as Mike Bluehair, from Film the Police Portland. We had a lot of response to that show last week, so if you want to catch it, you got to go to the Spreaker.com, and you can follow it over there. But tonight, we got a fascinating guy. We have a local attorney, Paul Gaudet, and he's going to be running for a judge here in the Department L in Family Court. Paul, are you there?
I am, Ed. Good evening. How are you doing?
Very good, my friend. Very good. It's an honor to have you on here tonight. Can you tell us about yourself and your background, and then we'll get into all this big campaign stuff you're working on here.
Absolutely. Myself personally, I'm a 48-year-old father of 3 children. I've resided in Clark County, Nevada. For 22 years, I've practiced law in Clark County for that same period of time, 22 years. My practice focuses primarily on family or domestic issues. I've also done some other general civil litigation issues, including some business-related matters, some real estate matters, some personal injury matters, but the majority of my practice focuses on family and domestic work, and that's why I decided to run for judge here in Clark County. I got quite a bit of experience as a trial attorney, and what that means is courtroom experience, so I think my professional experience as well as my personal experiences make me a very viable candidate for family court judge here in Clark County.
Oh, yeah. Well, your name is very well known in town. You're a very respected attorney. Where were you before you came to Nevada?
Well, I actually grew up in a very small town in Louisiana. I did my undergraduate work in Louisiana. From there, I moved to Orange County, California. I worked out of Orange County, but the job that I had required me to travel across the country about, I'm going to guesstimate, 65 to 70% of the time. I lived in Orange County for about 2.5 years, and the whole thought at the time I was working in Orange County was to save some money to go to law school, and that's what I was able to do. I was able to start law school, and I attended LSU. I went back to Louisiana for law school. In the meantime, I had met a girl from Orange County, and the deal between us was once I finished law school, we'd come back west And Las Vegas, at the time I finished law school, was about 600,000 people. It was growing exponentially on a monthly basis. And we looked at it as providing us a good opportunity to get back west. So that's how we got here. I went from Louisiana as a child and through my high school and college days to Orange County, California, back to Louisiana, and ultimately I wound up here at the beginning of 1992.
And you're the father of 3 kids. How old are your kids?
18, 16, and my little guy is 11 years old, just made 11.
Oh, there you go. Okay, great. You do any coaching or anything like that?
I've done all the
yeah, I know.
all the coaching. I've coached of course the baseball in Little League. I've done the girls softball. I've done the soccer. I assisted in my kids' karate classes for years. Yeah,
oh.
And tried to be as active as I could with regards to that. It's one of the things. I think sports are good for families. Of course, it keeps the kids active, but it keeps the parents active also, and it creates common bonds between parents and children.
Oh yeah. My daughter's 14, so I've been coaching the basketball for a few years now, and you get to know all the kids. You know, you get to know all the parents.
The one thing we haven't done much yet, and I think we personally met. I'm only 5'8".
Okay.
So while my little girl did play a little bit of basketball when she was in junior high school, unfortunately my boys are going to be about the size of their dad, so there hasn't been very much in the form of basketball leagues.
But you know what? You'd be surprised. Some of the smaller kids, man, they're out there. They're fast. They're dribbling low to the ground. You know, the ball.
I actually played quite a bit when I was young. My father had played in high school, so he was an avid basketball guy. But my boys just haven't taken to it all that much. So.
Well, you're a little shy about tooting your own horn there, but you were honored as the top 100 trial lawyers by the American Trial Lawyers Association. So it's an honor to have you on our show here. So you decided.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. Because so many people are devastated by what goes on in these family courts. You know that we really need to get in there and clean out the whole system. You know, really, guys, like yourself, to go in there and make a change. You know. So what made you want to run for judge?
Well, you use the word change, and that's really what I premised my campaign upon. I got to tell you, Ed, I've done this long enough and I've tried enough cases in enough different courts to really, I feel I have a pretty good idea as to the attributes that make a very good judge, and honestly, some of the attributes that make a judge not so much of a good judge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And what really made me decide to run this year. I'd actually been contacted 6 years ago by a group of guys to run, but at that point I just didn't think I had enough experience. My personal belief is a person should practice law for 20 years before they run for judge. I think that would give us a much more qualified bench. Well, I've exceeded that 20-year period of time, and change is the basis upon which I'm running. Far too often. I guess what I'm saying is this. I'm tired of criticizing the system. I'm tired of hearing people criticize the system. I've reached a point in my life where I think I can do a good job as a judge, and more importantly, I can make a difference in the system. Of course, I'm only running for one individual department, but I really believe I could have some positive effect on the things that happen in the lives of the families that are appearing before Department L of the Family Court. So in a nutshell, that's why I ran. I think I've reached the point in my professional career, I think I've reached the point in my personal life where I have good attributes as a trial attorney, as a father, as a man, to provide to the family court to help families get through the system as quickly, as expeditiously, as cost-effectively, as clean as possible, as efficient as possible. So,
and as peacefully. It doesn't.
That's very important.
It doesn't need to be this big, contentious experience where people's lives are destroyed, and people's livelihood is destroyed. And what you see so much of in Clark County Family Court.
Well, can I give you my thoughts on that, on what's happened with the family court system over the 22 years that I practiced?
Yeah.
I think the system has become overly service-oriented, and what I mean by that is we have judges on the bench right now that are attempting to look at a husband, look at a wife, look at a mother, look at a father, and try to figure out what's wrong with them, almost place a diagnosis on them as to what's wrong. And in doing so, they're referring these people out for what I'm going to refer to as services, whether it be counseling, whether it be evaluations, all sorts of tests to try and fix the problems that they perceive in the family. And honestly, that's, in my opinion, that's not the position, or it shouldn't be the position of a family court judge. I can bring my little boy in and ask him, hey, Bud, what's the job of a judge? The obvious response to that is the job of a judge is to judge. That means a judge has to make decisions. And I think what's happened in the family court system right now is almost what I refer to as a social services experiment. And I just don't think it works. I'm all for services. However, those services should be attempted, applied prior to the time of a mom and a dad, a wife and a husband getting to the family court system. Because the reality of what we deal with in the family court, we deal with high emotional levels. We deal with people that aren't getting along at a specific time, and regardless of how the judge encourages them to get along by way of services, quite often we're dealing with people that can't agree that the sky is blue when they get to this point in their life. I think the job of a judge a judge is more helpful to a family if he or she can move that family through the system expeditiously, cost-effectively, and efficiently. Once you get them through the system, they will heal. The problem is if you keep them in the system too long, attempting to get them healed, you're actually providing a disservice to the family because the emotions continue to run, the animosities continue to be there, and that's sort of what I think that the family court system has turned into, a service-oriented system, which the court's just not equipped to handle.
Well, what do you think motivates these judges to drag these things on, sometimes for years and years and years? Right now, I'd only like to talk about the department that I'm running for. I'm running for Department L. Gotcha.
The incumbent in my department has actually been a licensed attorney for about 3 years longer than I have. However, practiced law for a very, very short period of time and didn't do much court or trial work, to my knowledge, very, very little. What she did was she chose to pursue a different career. She decided the practice of law wasn't the right thing for her, and she wanted to become a counselor. She wanted to become a marriage and family therapist. And I don't think her intentions in requiring people to participate in these services are intentionally misplaced. I think she, in her heart of hearts, she believes that referring people out for counseling, referring people out for therapy, referring people out for evaluations is going to serve their best interest in the long run. However, she's now been on the bench for, she's almost completed 12 years now, and I think that the facts, the judicial rating, the attorney reports regarding her prove that her method of trying to get people through the system has been unsuccessful. So when you ask me what motivates them, in this particular case, I believe it's her training and her experience as a marriage and family therapist / counselor that's motivating her to try and bring the same approach to the bench. And once again, a judge's job is not to diagnose and fix. A judge's job is to judge. And if you enter orders in a timely fashion and you send people on their way, they typically learn. They can adapt to the orders that are entered, and it makes for a much better post-divorce transition than if you keep them in the system. You see, Ed, what you have to understand, every time a judge makes a referral for a service, that family has to come back before the judge.
Right.
When there's another referral, that family has to come back before the judge again. And when there's another referral, they have to come back again. And what it does is it elongates the process. It continuously brings up the bad factual issues that they were dealing with at the time of the separation. And it continues that high emotional level between the parents. Whereas if the judge gets the parents before them, considers the issues, makes a decision on the issues, and moves them out of the system, I believe they can heal a lot quicker than if they continue to be in the system.
I tell you, that makes so much sense. It just makes even with my own experience with my own divorce, you're right, the longer you have to keep going back, it causes animosity between the two parents, rather than moving forward and away from the situation.
Look, I'm sort of getting back to one of the questions that you asked earlier, but look, in my practice, 22 years, I would probably, I don't know how many divorces I've done, but let's just say I've done 1,000 divorces. The most common theme that I hear from clients, or I shouldn't say the theme, the most common complaint that I hear from clients is twofold, okay? The first complaint is the time that it takes to get through the system. The second complaint is the cost that is expended in getting through the system. Okay. Now, if you take those two complaints and you look at what I'm saying, you're going to see how they're applied. If a judge hears the facts and makes a decision, moves them through the system, the time that it takes to get through the system is lessened, and perhaps, just as importantly, the cost that the parties expend in getting through the system is reduced. If the judge refers for counseling, refers for therapy, refers for evaluations, and brings them back each time, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at that and see that the time associated with getting the parents through the system has increased, and just as importantly, the cost associated with getting the parents through the system has increased exponentially.
Very good. Okay, now you're running in Department L, and your website where people, if they want to donate money to your campaign, that's called Paul Gaudet for Judge.com. And
can I just spell it out because I did it a little different. It's Paul, P-A-U-L, Gaudet, G-A-U-D-E-T, for F-O-R. I did not use the number. Judge, J-U-D-G-E.com, www.paulgaudetforjudge.com.
Right, and there's a link to that. I got a link to his to your campaign website there on the Opperman Report blog. So everybody who visits the blog all the time, they can just go right there and click on that and check out his campaign promises and stuff like that. So is that the big issue you think? Is it the therapy thing, or are there other problems you think?
No, there are other issues. The first issue that I've tried to get across to voters is the ideological differences between the incumbent and I as to how we see a courtroom being administered, and we've covered that. There's another issue that, as a voter, as a taxpayer, causes me a lot of concern. I certainly hope it would cause concerns to the majority of the voters and taxpayers out there. And that issue has to do with something as simple as the incumbent's attendance on the bench. During the last term, over a period of 1 year, and I want to preface this by saying I actually have documentation in my possession to substantiate what it is I'm saying. I had to go to the Supreme Court, and I had to request and get copies of orders signed by Supreme Court judges appointing and approving the payment of senior judges to take the place of the incumbent. And I don't have the specific figures in front of me right now, but over a period of 1 year, there was a total of 167 days where senior judges were appointed and paid to sit in the place of the incumbent for Department L. Now, Ed, I don't know exactly how many work days there are in a year, but if you do a real simple calc, if you look at 365 days a year, 52 weekends a year, and you take off holidays and stuff like that, I think what you're talking about is approximately 240 work days for a judge a year. And if you do the calculation, I think that you're going to see it's approximately 65% of the time that this judge was absent from the bench during that 1 year period of time. Then what I did was I extended it over another year, and I got documentation. And if you look at it over a 2 year period of time, this judge was absent from the bench for approximately 40% of the time over a 2 year period. Now, what does that mean to us as taxpayers? Okay, what that means to us as taxpayers is that this particular judge received a salary from the county over a period of 1 year when she missed over 60% of the time that she was supposed to be on the bench. She received a salary from us taxpayers over a period of 2 years when she missed approximately 40% of the time that she was supposed to be on the bench. But it doesn't stop there. Every time a senior judge was appointed to take her place, that senior judge was paid a salary. And it's actually a day rate, but I can't quote the day rate because the rule for payment of senior judges is not very clear. But over that 2 year period of time, not only did we pay the incumbent to miss 40% of the time that she was supposed to be on the bench. We actually increased the amount that Department L's judicial salaries cost us by having to pay senior judges over 200 days during that same period of time. Now, it doesn't stop there because it costs the taxpayers in other ways. And right now, when I say taxpayers, I'm talking about the actual litigants that appear before Department L. And you might say, well, Paul, how is she costing the litigants? Well, what happens is when a senior judge is appointed to the calendar, and by no means am I knocking any of the senior judges, but a lot of the senior judges have very little experience in the family court. So what they tend to do is they tend to get really basic rulings on matters that come before them and continue them out so that the sitting judge can hear those cases. What's the result of that? The result of that is the litigants are paying their attorneys to prepare issues to bring to the attention of the court. Those issues aren't being resolved by senior judges. They're being kicked to a later time. The litigants then incur more costs than having their attorneys prepare and appear again at a later time. Remember those two primary complaints that I told you clients voiced to me over the 22 years I practiced? One is the time that it takes to get through the system. If you have a judge that's not appearing when she's supposed to appear, of course you're extending the time that it's taking the individual litigants to get through the system. If you have a judge who's not appearing and senior judges are continuing those hearings and attorneys are preparing or having to prepare again and make additional appearances, it goes without saying that you're increasing the cost of the individual litigants associated with the cases.
Well, no, that's right.
Problem.
But new issues come up. New issues come up between appearances.
Absolutely.
So you got to. Well, how come this isn't on the news? If you have something like this, so.
Actually, but this is the problem, Ed. It's almost voter apathy. Yeah. It has been in the news. The Review Journal has, I'm going to say, reported on this at least two. I remember reading two articles during the latest term of the incumbent. I can't tell you the news stations have picked up on it, but it has been reported. But the problem is that we have a straight electoral process for judges here in the state of Nevada, and I need voters to conduct a little bit of investigation into the people that are running for judge, to learn a little bit about their background so that they can make the most competent decision when they go in to vote for these people. Look, I understand people get sick, okay? I understand. By the way, I practiced law 22 years. I don't think I've missed 4 days from my office in 22 years because I've been sick, all right? But to miss over 160 days from the bench in 1 year, it's inexcusable. I can't think of an excuse that would justify missing that many days.
What other job could you keep doing that?
On the campaign trail, I've sort of used this, and this is really, really effective when I approach voters from this perspective. I say, how many of you are business owners? How many of you are managers that have employees working below you? How many of you are former military where you have subordinates to you in the service? All right. Well, let's talk about this for a second. Let's suppose you had somebody that worked for you, that was under you, who you had authority over, and that person missed 60% of the time that they were supposed to be at work in 1 year. What would you do with that employee? 100% of the people say terminate. 100% of the people say terminate.
Well, Paul,
voters of Clark County, this is your chance to hold someone accountable for having missed extensive time from work for which you have been required to pay them during the last term.
How are you going to fire them? You don't even know what they look like. They don't show up for work. I equate fire them to vote. If you go in, I know, but it bounces your applause. You can't fire an employee if you've never seen them before.
I'm a firm believer that in order for a judge to be highly regarded, the judge must do 5 things. Okay, and if every judge out there does these 5 things, you're first off, you're not going to hear about them, which is a good thing. If you don't hear about a judge, that's not such a bad thing. But the 5 things are this: you got to appear, you got to be on the bench, you have to be prepared, you have to read the pleadings before you come into court. You have to treat people with basic dignity, respect, and when I say people, I mean the litigants and the attorneys. You have to issue orders. You have to give finality to cases, and you have to move people through the system. If you do those 5 things, okay, you're going to be a successful judge. Now, if you can't do something as simple as appear on the bench when you're supposed to, you got a problem with the very first thing, and it snowballs from there.
Okay, but people don't know that. The people of Clark County, Nevada, aren't aware of this. You know, that there's a sitting judge that doesn't appear for work half the time. And I think that most people, it's name recognition is what causes them to go out and vote for a judge, especially a judge. You know, even when you get the sheriff and stuff like that. But, you know, who's really, unless you've been involved in family court, and no one's happy with family court in Clark County, Nevada. I don't think there's a parent or a spouse that's ever gone through that system and says, "Hey, oh boy, I had a great experience down at family court." You know.
I got to stop you for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you to a certain extent, but I disagree with you to a certain extent. I got to tell you, as an attorney that's done this for 22 years now, who's represented thousands of people in the system, many of my clients are happy with the results of the system. Not necessarily happy because they've gotten everything that they expected to get out of the system. Happy because I prepared them going into the system for what would transpire. I, as an attorney, I sit down and I tell people the potential for good, but I also tell people the potential for bad. I don't blow smoke up anyone, okay? I got to be honest with you. 9 of 10 of my clients that I leave the courtroom with are happy because what I advise them is likely to happen in the courtroom happens. The people that are really, really unhappy with the system are the people that haven't gotten, how can I say this? The people that haven't gotten straight representation as to what is likelihood to occur in the system. Then they walk out and they're blown away by what's happened, and that creates unhappy people. So I wouldn't say everybody that goes into the system is unhappy. I think it's important for people going into the system to be prepared, to be given the pros and cons of what's about to happen. And if they are given the pros and cons, that they're able to just go back to what I told you a couple of minutes ago. The key is for the judge to make a decision, because if the judge can make a decision and get them out of the system, they can adjust. We adapt to the decision. When we're in the system over and over and over, that creates unhappiness. And you know, I try to avoid the unhappiness. I try to be as direct with people, as straight with people as I can, so that they know what to expect. And that, you know, unfortunately, over my career, that's led to me having happy clients.
Well, okay, that's great. But the other issue I was bringing up was about the name recognition. And I think if voters in Clark County, Nevada knew that there was a judge in Department L that was only showing up for work 40% of the time or 60% of the time, I think they would be outraged. But all they do is drive by and they see those signs. Paul, are you getting those kind of signs out there and stuff like that and getting your name out in the press?
Yeah. What you got to understand a couple of things, and I want the listeners to understand this too. This is the first election cycle where all 52 Clark County District Court judges are on the ballot at the same time. The reason why I mention that is we have a ton of contested races, and we have a ton of candidates. Okay. With that being said, when I decided to do this, I stepped back and I tried to formulate a budget. So, you know, before I went to law school, I was actually an accountant. I did accounting work, so I really enjoyed budgeting. I like looking at numbers. I like to think I've done a pretty good job with my life and my practice thus far. And I applied the same philosophy to my campaign. My research indicated that with regards to signs, the most beneficial signs to have were the A-frames, the bigger signs, the 8x16s. So to answer your question, my 8x16 signs are out there. I did do some of the, I'm going to call them traditional 3x5s, 2x4s, whatever they are. But I made a decision as a candidate not to focus the money that I was spending on those smaller signs, because the research that I did told me they weren't that productive. So yes, I do have signs out there. I chose to go the A-frame route. I didn't choose to go the 3x5. Of course, I do have yard signs and stuff of that nature out there, in addition to bumper stickers, in addition to things like that. So I've tried to get my name out there as much as I can. The other thing that I'm going to do, Once again, my research indicated to me that this was a productive way to proceed. I am going to be doing television, which is ads, which are going to start. I think we're starting. Don't hold me to the date. I think it's October 12th or October 13th, to try and get some recognition out there prior to the early voting opening. In addition to that, I am doing some radio spots. I'm doing some public radio. And I tried to look, Ed, if I told you how many events I've been to in the last 8 months, you'd probably fall over in your chair right now. I've tried to get out there and meet people. If I can get out there and meet people and tell them my position on the issues that I see with Department L, from an objective perspective, the voters of Clark County, Nevada agree with me. It's a matter of me getting my word out there to the voters.
Okay, great. I feel a little bit better. Okay, a little bit more confident. And I did note that you are a former, what is this here, an auditor and an accountant and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, speaking...
That was my pre... I come from a blue-collar background. My mom and dad were blue-collar workers. They didn't have the money to send me to law school. I knew from a very early stage I wanted to attend law school. I chose to major in accounting because it was my belief, and I think it proved right. The bean counters almost always have jobs. So I figured if I majored in accounting, I would be able to get out there, get me a job where I could save some money to be able to attend law school and start my career from there.
Yeah, my dad was an accountant. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, speaking of buying ads on radio, I have to read some ads right now, okay, as you can understand. Okay, so let me do a little, make a little money here, and you can take a little break, take a couple of minutes to read all this. Okay, hey, we got some big news from Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo, okay? She tells us that they're getting ready to launch a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Gaudet bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practice standards. Well, I think that means that it's environmentally friendly, okay? But everybody knows Pacific West Bamboo. They're your number one source for timber construction, craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, flooring, and you can reach them at 503-839-8126. Their email is demroots@oppermail.com, and their Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. And don't forget, we got Mike over at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out infinityhomeplans.com, your home plans and design services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawing sets, 3D models, renderings, and more. Emailrevealer.com. This is the place where you can get some cell phone forensics done. You can get some computer forensics done. Let's say you need some data recovered from an iPhone or a cell phone. You need to recover deleted text messages or deleted pictures. Contact emailrevealer.com. And also their online infidelity investigation, where they can trace an email address back to online dating websites and personal ads. New World Mexican Women. Okay, don't forget the New World Mexican Women from the state of Guerrero in Mexico, where they've written this book called New World Mexican Women. It's a beautiful coffee table-sized book where they have all their letters to their husbands and their men and their fathers and their brothers who have come to America trying to make a better life for themselves and try and send money back to these women in the town of Guerrero, Mexico. And also, too, the second half of the book has all their stuff about how they can make authentic Mexican jewelry. And so the great big sponsor of the show, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. That's all you have to do is put that in Google, New World Mexican Women. The link to their Lulu book is on the Opperman Report blog. You can always find it there and also on my Facebook page. But here tonight we are with Paul Gaudet, who is really impressing me very much. Really, I wasn't expecting a lot from me because I met a lot of lawyers in this town. Okay, but Paul Gaudet for Judge.com. And people, if you want to help him get these signs out there, go to paulgaudetforjudge.com. I assume you take PayPal and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah, we have that set up on the website. There's a little I'm going to call them knobs that you can go onto. But if anybody's interested in signs, my email address is on the website, as well as my phone number is on the website. I give all of your listeners my word, just as I do with my clients. I return every email. I take every phone call. I'm not one of those to put things on the side. They call in, they will get me personally. They email me, they will get a response from me personally. If anyone wants signs, bumper stickers, anything along those lines, I'll make sure we get them out to them. I'm also on social media. That's another way I'm trying to get the word out in my campaign. If they want to visit me on Facebook, it's Paul Gaudet for Judge. And that's my Facebook handle. I also have a personal Facebook. I'll go to it there too.
Okay, let me ask you real quick. Do you actually look like the picture on your sign? Because I tell you, okay, I've met some of these judges in person, and or the guys who ran for sheriff. I moderated the sheriff debate down here, and I met a lot of these sheriffs in person. And when you see their picture, they don't look like the picture on the sign at all. So come on, Paul.
Ed, I'm going to tell you, I had the answer to your question is absolutely. I had no pictures of myself to even utilize for the campaign. I filed to become judge, I believe it was like January 13th. That picture that you see was taken the same day that I filed to become judge.
Okay, all right. I got to trust you. Okay, you're going to be our next judge here in Clark County. I know you wouldn't lie to me. Now, in your radio ads and your TV ads, what are you going to be pointing out on those ads? One thing you should
what I've done is, and I tell you, I welcome you and I welcome your listeners. I actually have the television ads have been posted on both my website and my Facebook account. I welcome people to click on them right now and tell me what you and or they think of the ads. What I've tried to do is, of course, I'm dealing with 30-second spots, so there's only so much that you can get out there in 30 seconds, but I've received very, very positive feedback from them in this regard. The people that have looked at them and the people that have responded to me with regards to the commercials, and I hope they're being objective with me, have all indicated that the point that I'm trying to make with regards to efficiency in the court system, with regards to attendance, with the issues that we've sort of discussed this for, are being made in the commercials. So I really, really hope, granted they are 30-second spots, but I hope my point is coming across clear in those 30-second spots.
Yeah, the attendance issue just seems so blatant.
Well, what I'm gonna do with the attendance, I have actually quantified everything. I have it all, I guess from my accounting background. I believe if you look at numbers in column fashion, it's very, very clear. My original intention was to run that quantifications in a variety of print ads. But unfortunately, once again, from a budgeting perspective, I had to sit down and I had to look at the cost associated with print ad versus the bang for the buck that you get from print ad. I've made a determination that because of the cost associated with print ad, I'm not going to be running those quantified numbers in the major print publications. What I'm going to do is those numbers are going to be sent out via email. Those numbers are going to be posted on the website, and those numbers are going to be provided on Facebook. And what I'm intending on doing, I don't want to get those numbers out. I guess I could and then just duplicate the process. But what I really want to do, I want to get those numbers out so that they are fresh in the mind of the voters when they go out to vote. Because I truly believe that that any voter that's going to look at the quantification of these numbers, that's not going to be appalled at these numbers. And I guess I misspoke. I truly believe the majority of the people that are going to look at these numbers are going to be appalled at the simple attendance records of this judge.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, and I'm having you on as a guest. I didn't even realize that at all. Now, what about, is that similar to other judges?
No, I've never seen anything. I've never seen. I mean, granted, over the years, I do know of judges that have become ill and have taken time off from work. I personally, I've never seen anything this extensive. I guess I should answer your question by saying this. Have I looked into any other specific judges and their attendance records? No, I haven't, but I don't know of anyone that whose attendance was this poor.
Now, have you ever done a comparison of the different judges and the length of time it takes them to drag out the litigation?
Yeah. I haven't been able to quantify that. I can tell you this, that the judge against whom I'm running has very what I consider to be poor judicial ratings. And what I mean by that is, according to the RJ Judging the Judges poll, she had a 40% do not retain rating. What that means is 40% of the responding attorneys recommended that she not be retained as a judge. If your listeners look at it from this simplistic of a perspective, if you make a 60% on your report card, at least when I was in school, if you made a 60%, you got an F. Okay, I guess this day and age it's a D- because I don't know how many Fs they give anymore. Yeah. But I think if you take that poll and you go one step farther, you're going to see that the attorneys are suggesting that she not be retained for a couple of reasons. And one of those reasons is timeliness of decisions, lack of efficiency in getting people through the court system. Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine, and I won't mention any name, called me 2 weeks ago. What he told me on the phone was, Paul, you have to win this election. I said, why? He goes, I was just in the department for a 10 o'clock hearing. I'm walking back into my office right now. It's 1:25 in the afternoon. Now, this is a hearing that should take 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes tops. And he's stuck over there for in excess of 3 hours because of an utter lack of efficiency on the part of the judge. So have I gone out and quantified it? No, I haven't gone out and quantified it. I can tell you from experience and reviewing the remarks made by attorneys in the Review Journal poll, that is the problem. She does not get people through the system in a time-effective, efficient manner.
Yeah, and then there's also there's the gossip in the hallways from all the lawyers. And the lawyers know which judge is dragging things out and which ones aren't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, what about endorsements? Can you tell us what kind of endorsements you've gotten?
Yeah, I've got to tell you, I'm proud of my endorsements. I really, really am. I'm a candidate running against an incumbent, and it's not an easy thing to go out there and get endorsements against an incumbent. I am endorsed by all of the PPAs. I'm endorsed by Metro PPA, Metro Civilian PPA, and Metro Retiree PPA. I am endorsed by the plumber and pipe fitters. I'm endorsed by, I don't have my website in front of me, Ed, I'm sorry. But my endorsements are listed on the website. I'm waiting to hear from the Review Journal right now. I haven't heard anything from the firemen, but yeah, I'm very, very proud. And just as importantly, I'm endorsed, and this tells you a lot about this particular department. I am endorsed by many of the attorneys here in Clark County that I consider to be the better family court practitioners in the county. And that says something, because attorneys are always, we attorneys, we're put in sort of precarious positions in these elections, because it's tough to come out and endorse a candidate against an incumbent for fear that the incumbent is going to retain the position. Yet these, I won't use the word prominent, these very experienced, very qualified family law attorneys have come out and endorsed me in this race, and that makes me, it makes me feel really good.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now what other issues you want to tell us about?
For right now, that covers just about everything. I would like to mention one other thing that I think tells you a little bit about my qualification as an attorney and what sort of judge I would make. One of the proudest things that I've had happen to me during the election process, of course, in order to put on these campaigns, we have to raise some money. I can tell you that 60 to 70% of the money I've raised has not come from attorneys, but come from former clients.
Ah.
Now, I challenge you. I challenge you in the other 52 departments, the district court departments here in town, to contact candidates and have one of them tell you that over 50% of their contributions have come from their clients. Very, very uncommon. And I'm very, very proud of that fact, because that tells you about the quality of representation that I've provided to people over the years.
Oh, yeah, because we all know that most clients hate their lawyer, right?
Well, it's like I said, I'm very, very proud of that fact. I really am.
Well, you should be. You should be, my friend. Okay, hey, is it okay if I bring in Mary Perry, the local attorney, to ask you some questions too?
Absolutely. Before you do that, could I just say Mary was actually one of my opponents in the primary.
I did not know that.
And this is something else. And before you get Mary on, you can ask her this question. I think Mary and I are both proud of one thing from the primary. We actually get along very, very well, and you won't find too many people running against one another that say that.
No, definitely not. Let me see if I could just find her. Okay, I should have her all set up here to go. Take me a second here to get a hold of her. Okay, great. Well, yeah, we're bringing good old Mary Perry. So I didn't know you guys ran against each other. You're both Republicans then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, 1 second here. Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I saw you too that you were an arbitrator.
Yeah, I've served. I was contacted by the State Board of Nevada and asked to volunteer to serve as an arbitrator mediator for the State Bar in what's referred to as fee disputes between clients and attorneys. So I've been doing that, I don't know, I've probably been doing that about 10 years now. When a client has an issue with fees that he or she is charged by an attorney, they file a complaint with the State Bar, and I'm one of the guys that actually hears those disputes.
This is Mary.
On those disputes.
Okay, Mary, how are you? We're live on the air. And
I am.
How are you? And we're
I'm
here
doing great.
with Paul Gaudet, who's running for governor. Maybe next year, right?
Please. I'm doing very well, Paul, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I read something about one of your family members, and my condolences or my best wishes will go out to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, Mary, why don't you give us a little background about yourself, and then maybe you can help me ask Paul some questions.
Well, I've been practicing family law for about 13 years now, and I've just, lived here in Las Vegas it's been 20 years, so a little over 20 years. We spent 8.5 years in the Air Force, and decided to run for judge, and of course, Mr. Paul Gaudet and Jennifer Elliott beat me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me a bit, and I know that Paul will do a wonderful job when he replaces the sitting judge.
So then
that means a lot.
You are right here, right now, publicly endorsing Paul Gaudet.
I am publicly endorsing Paul Gaudet, yes. There
you go, Paul. So what kind of questions would you have to help me out here to interview Paul?
Well, Paul, I guess one of the big questions that I would have for you is what would you do differently than the judge that we currently have?
What I would do differently is I would actually appear, I would prepare, I would listen to the facts objectively, I would listen to the argument of counsel objectively, and I would make decisions in a timely fashion to move the litigants in the family court system through the system. I think that's extremely important, and I think that's not being done inside Department L at this particular time.
Okay. Would you, at the eve of the trial, would you send people out to get another report through expert witnesses instead of doing the job yourself?
Hey, Ed, it sounds like Mary sort of knows what's going on over there right now, huh?
Yeah.
Your question, Mary, is absolutely unequivocally not. I would make as few referrals as absolutely necessary. As a matter of fact, it is my position that if I'm elected to serve as judge in the family court, it is my job and no one else's job to make decisions with regards to families. I would be reluctant to refer people out, for evaluations, for counseling services. Of course, if the parties and their attorneys were to come before me with a stipulation for their services, who am I to discourage that? As a matter of fact, I think, in my opinion, that's when services are actually beneficial to the parties, when they agree to do it. I don't think a judge, I certainly don't think I as a judge should be forcing those services upon the litigants. It increases the time to get them through the system, and perhaps just importantly, it substantially increases the cost associated with getting them through the system.
Okay. And what do you feel about the interviewing of the children? And at what age do you think it begins beneficial?
Mary, I got to tell you, my conservative views come into conflict with statutory and rule authority. Over the years, of course, as a judge, I would apply the law. What the statute provides is that when a child becomes of sufficient age, intelligence, and maturity to form a well-reasoned opinion as to the parent with whom he or she wants to reside, the court should listen. Not necessarily follow, but the court should listen. So if that's the case, and I see a situation where I'm dealing with, let's just take an age, a 13-year-old, an intelligent 13-year-old child that's doing the right things, not the wrong things, I would have that child interviewed. It would be a child by child. The weight that I would place on the interview would be based on a child-by-child analysis. And what I mean by that is, if I have an intelligent 13-year-old that's doing the right thing, I might give more weight to what that child has to say than a 16-year-old child that's in the juvenile system all the time because he or she's doing the wrong thing. So in my experience, what the law pertaining to the preferences of children has led to is a situation where children go back and forth between parents, and I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. The statute, in my mind, empowers a child. It empowers a child to go out there and say what he or she wants, and the court gives some credence to what the child says. Once you empower a child, it is very, very difficult to disempower that child if his or her position changes at a later time. In my experience of doing this 22 years, many, many times, and honestly, I've seen this more so with female children than I have with male children. But I've seen children change their minds, and I don't believe that's conducive to a child. I don't think it's conducive to a child to bounce from household to household to household. And what happens is, if you empower that child when he or she is 12 years old, and 9 months later that child has a conflict with I'm going to use the word custodial parent at that time. And how do we at that point disempower the child from bouncing from home to home to home? So, of course, the statute is what the statute is. I will follow the statute. I think I will examine what it is the children have to say very, very carefully before I give 100% credit. I guess what I'm saying is this. I will not let a child dictate my decisions as a judge. Ultimately, the weight to be placed on what a child has to say lies with me.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I said that sounds great. That's a very well thought out.
It does.
Yeah.
That is very well thought out, and it's one of those things that
Ed. Over the years, I personally have probably dealt with 100, 150 cases involving the interviews of children. So I mean, it's something that I've become very, very familiar with during my practice.
Okay, both of you, we only have 3 minutes before that big, long break. I'm hoping, Paul, can you stay a little bit longer after the break?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, Mary, hit him with some tough questions, Mary.
Okay. I hate to you some tough questions.
Definitely. Come on, Mary. I heard like you're chopping wood over here.
Okay. Here recently, we've had a lot of the domestic violence news, not only locally, but nationally with the NFL and everything. What is your take on domestic violence, and how serious are you going to take the claim, and do you recognize the fact that there are two sides to every story and the other party could have pushed the buttons to make it happen?
Yeah, let me, very, very good question with what's happened here the last 2 weeks. Well, let me preface my answer by saying, and Ed, I got to tell you and your listeners, I have actually been involved in 2 cases in the last 15 years that involved the death of mothers in divorce cases. So I take this very, very seriously. The answer to your question, Mary, is yes, it will be taken very, very seriously. It will be dealt with accordingly. However, I think it's very, very important to recognize that there are 2 sides to each story. the proper way to handle a domestic violence case or a case which involves allegations of domestic violence is for the judge, the trier of fact, to have the conviction, to have the time, to have the patience to actually listen to both sides before jumping to an ultimate conclusion. So answer your question in a nutshell, it's going to be taken very seriously in my court. If I find that that the proof is sufficient to substantiate it, it's going to be dealt with very swiftly, very authoritatively. But ultimately, I will put the time into listening to both sides before I reach that conclusion. I think that's one of the problems. If you're dealing with a
Paul, we're coming up to that long break I was talking about. It's a nice long break. Everybody can get a nice drink of water, go to the bathroom. We're with Paul Gaudet for Judge.com. Okay, Paul Gaudet, very impressive local attorney, very well known, very well respected. In the top 100 trial lawyers of the American Trial Lawyers Association. That's no slouch. 48-year-old father of 3 kids, 22 years resident in Clark County, Nevada. We're also with Mary Perry, who's a local attorney. Everybody knows her. She ran against Paul Gaudet. Now she's endorsing Paul Gaudet. So we have her on as well. We're going to Mary for she's a fascinating one. Okay, is everybody on mute?
I'm here, Ed.
Yeah, okay.
Mary? I'm here.
Okay, is anybody like in a wind? Is anybody in a wind tunnel? Okay. All right, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here every Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, which is a listener-sponsored station, so they take no corporate sponsorship. So if you want to support the station, you have to go to freedomslips.com and click on the donate button. Also simulcast, cjmarsradio.com, 365 Live, hazyradio.com, and WTRU Radio. We got coming up in a couple of weeks, we got Ward Churchill, Professor Ward Churchill coming up. We got Bobby Seale, the original Black Panther Party for self-defense, and we have civil rights attorney Danny Sheehan, who's a fascinating guy involved in everything from Watergate to the Daniel Ellsberg break-in and all kinds of, who's that, Silkwood, Karen Silkwood. The guy's been involved in everything, so I can't wait to get him on. But tonight we have a local lawyer, attorney Paul Gaudet, who's running for a judge. He's going to clean out the, what do you call that? Clean out the tyrants or whatever. Clean out the scoundrels in office. He's going to clean them out. Paul Gaudet.
I'm going to make the court much more efficient. That I can assure you.
You're going to make me proud, man. I have good faith in you. Paul Gaudet for Judge.com. And we also have Mary Perry with us, who's a local attorney who was actually running against Paul Gaudet and now endorses him. So we had left off. Hey, you know one thing? We had left off talking about domestic violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, isn't one of the main issues that we have here in Clark County, Nevada, is that if you make a domestic violence complaint, if you call 911 and the police show up, they do make an arrest. I think it's policy that they have to make an arrest every time.
I can't speak for the specific policy of Metro. It's my understanding that if there is evidence of physical harm, at that point they make the arrest. Perhaps, could you give more insight, Mary? I'm not exactly sure of Metro's policy.
There has to be an act of violence towards one party or the other, and there has to pretty much be marks on the party or admission that there was hitting before they would take one to jail. If it's just without arguing, now they do take it that little bit further and try to get one of the parties to leave, and sometimes say you've got to leave or we will arrest you. But they usually try to make sure that there is a cooling off period if they get called out.
Gotcha. Okay, so Mary, what other questions do you have for Paul?
Well, Paul, let's switch here just a hair. You've got an attorney and a proper person litigant. Are you going to force the proper person litigants to follow the rules, or are you going to give them a little bit of leeway?
Well, I think the rules do have to be applied, but by the same token, I want everyone to have a fair day in court. So I'll apply the rules, but I mean, when you're dealing with a proper look, as a judge, I cannot give legal advice, but as a judge, I think I can explain to a proper person litigant the procedural aspect of how to get from point A to point B. without giving legal advice. So yes, I'm going to apply the rules, but I mean, I think one of the most important things for litigants in this system is to feel like they've been heard. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the complaints that you hear about coming from the system are the results of judges that are too short with people, not as patient with people as they should be, cut people off. So what I want to do is, even a pro per person, I still want that person to feel like the judge has taken into account what they've said. Now, will I let a pro per person run roughshod on the rules? No, I'm not going to allow that. I think I have to be fair to both sides at that point, so I won't allow that to happen. But there will be patience extended to pro per people.
Okay. As a practicing attorney, I'm sure you have ran into a situation that they label trial by ambush, that is holding back evidence.
That happened to me about 3 weeks ago, Mary. Yes.
Are you going to allow that in your courtroom?
Absolutely, unequivocally not. I think that's where a judge has to put their foot down and cannot allow that to happen. And I couldn't be more direct with my answer to that question.
Fantastic. I think as a practicing attorney getting into trial and then all of a sudden evidence trying to be brought in that I hadn't seen before, I think that's one of the things that irritates me the most about some of this stuff. And
perhaps for Ed and the listeners, we should explain what we're talking about. We started talking about
good idea.
Legal matter. What happens, Ed? We have rules that provide how evidence is supposed to be exchanged between the attorney / the parties prior to the time of trial. What Mary is referring to, you get to the point of a trial or an evidentiary hearing, and you have a litigant or an attorney that is attempting to utilize evidence that has not been exchanged during the discovery phase of the action. Okay? And it's kind of, we call it trial by ambush. You go into court and you're ambushed with something that you haven't seen before. At that point, I as a judge, I'm going to make sure I enforce the rules to not allow trial by ambush to occur in my courtroom.
Oh boy, is there any way I can sign up, make sure I just come in your courtroom and?
Unfortunately not.
Okay. All right. To stress a point here, if it would have been me who made it past the primary instead of you, would you have endorsed me over Elliot?
Yes. I feel that strongly in the fact that we need a change in Department of Health.
I was hoping that you were doing this to make sure that there's a change and not just to run.
Look, I'm doing this. I like to think I decided to run for judge for the right reasons. I tell people, look, I've been practicing law for 22 years. Trust me, I'm not doing this for a job. I have a really, really good job, okay? I'm not doing this for retirement. Over 22 years, I've taken care of that for myself. I'm doing this because I feel the obligation to provide a service, a quality service to the community that's been so good to my family and I. I'm doing this for the right reasons. I believe there needs to be a change in Department of Health.
Okay. My brain has just decided it's not wanting to do this now. I can't think of the question that I had in my head earlier.
Mary, what motivated you to run for judge?
One of the big things that had motivated me to run for judge was there was a long period of time when the sitting judge did not bother to show up.
Right.
She was sat there. She stated that she had went on a cruise in December and got food poisoning, but she didn't take her first day off until the end of January. Now, I don't know of any food poisoning that takes 30 days to attack you. And then more often than not, she was at home doing whatever instead of being there. This happened on more than one occasion. She's come in, hit her head, got a concussion, and had to take over 6 months off. She's gotten now to where she has other judges signing her orders. She, I just, all sorts of stuff. Then the decision, she doesn't want children to leave this jurisdiction. She doesn't want to let go of them, even if it would be in their best interest.
You mean moving out of state?
Correct, moving out of state. There was a gentleman who was active duty military. He retired. The mother had lost custody due to her not being that good of a parent. So she lost custody, had relocated back east somewhere. He decided to move to California because he could get a better job there. And the judge refused to allow him to move, had the mother move back here, gave her custody, and said, okay, now you can move if you want to, sir.
Get out of here.
Yep, that's one of the things that she had done. And that was frustrating.
Ed, if I'm not mistaken, that case was referred to in the news also. That's what I'm saying. These issues with Department L have been brought to the attention of the public by way of the news. Unfortunately, these issues are not things that stick in the mind of the public come election time. I was actually on a radio show a couple of months ago, and one of the questions they asked me, why did you choose to run against a popular judge? And I stopped and I said, well, first off, I don't think this judge is popular. And second off, any popularity that this judge would have would be because of negative things that have been reported. So, I mean, now Mary just gave you numbers with regards to attendance. Sounds sort of similar to what I was talking about 35 minutes ago, right?
Well, then, Mary, let me ask you this, because I asked Paul before if he looks like those pictures on his posters. Does he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Although I do think he's a little bit better looking in person.
Okay, good, because you see those signs, man, and then you meet these judges, these sheriffs and stuff like. You meet them in person, they never look. Well, that's good. Okay, okay. So Mary vouches for you. I trust her.
Thanks.
I like hearing that.
Yeah. But that's really.
I told him earlier, Mary. I had so few photos of myself that picture on my sign was actually taken the same day that I filed for office. I had no other pictures of you.
Well, mine was taken about a month before I decided to run for office.
But now, the story you're telling about how the father, they took away custody so he could move out of state, and
correct.
They actually had the mother move back here to Nevada?
Yes. The mother who they had already taken custody from because of neglect.
Okay.
And so they had the same woman move back here to take care of the child, and the judge's excuse was that the child was doing good in school here.
Gotcha. Why
disrupt her education? This is the worst school system, or one of the worst school systems in the nation. Why wouldn't you want a child to leave here and get a better education elsewhere?
Yeah,
you see, the issue of relocation is a really, really interesting issue. I practice in a variety of areas. I don't think in my 22 years of practice I've ever seen any area of the law evolve this way. 25 years ago, it was extremely difficult, next to impossible, to get a court to grant you permission to leave the state with the child. Okay? About, I don't know, Mary, what is it, 15 years ago, maybe 14, 15 years ago, the law made it almost a 180 in our state. We went from almost never letting parents relocate with children to the point where the Supreme Court basically said, hey, you know what, all those years we think we were wrong. We need to start looking at this more carefully, and once a best interest determination has been made, it's in this day and age, it's not such a bad thing to let a kid go to another state. And I don't know exactly what year the case Mary is referring to was decided, but I think what she's focusing on now is the fact that Department L may not have properly applied the law to the factual situation of a father who had already been, let me rephrase that, to a child whose best interest had already been determined to be served by being in the primary custody of her dad.
Yes. Yeah. And that is just one of many cases. You know, there's another case where the judge ordered one parent to wear the scram bracelet because she did not believe the claims of drinking and driving with children in the car. It came back where it showed the parent was 2 times the legal limit picking the children up. So she changed the visitation time so that the other parent could not tell when the person was drunk and picking the kids up. And so, well, I would still give joint physical custody if they were a meth user.
Ed, we should tell you what the scram bracelet is. The scram bracelet is a device placed that can actually monitor alcohol consumption at just about any given time.
Okay. But wait, go over that again, Mary. What happened again? The father was picking up the kids from school or from the other parent's house?
It was from the other parent's house, and then the judge changed the visitation schedule where the picking up and dropping off was then at the school, so that the mother could not monitor whether he was drinking and driving.
Oh, my God. And what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, her excuse was if he was a meth user, I'd make him stay clean for 12 weeks and then still give him joint physical custody without taking into consideration how meth would actually scramble the brain and possibly create a dangerous situation.
Is that an actual quote?
It's pretty close to what she said, but it is not an actual quote.
Okay, because that would make a good TV commercial. You know,
wouldn't it?
If it was a meth user right now, give him 12 days. You know, my God. But
well, I have the name of that case if you want to contact me afterwards.
I may contact you for that one. I've still got some time to extrapolate words for a TV commercial.
Okay.
What else we got? What else you got there, Mary?
I had heard about that case.
You heard about that, Mike? Was that in the news?
I don't think it was in the news. Not yet, anyway. What else? What other cases? Just some really, just weird decisions. There's been cases where, allegations of child abuse on one side, both the child and the other parents denying it, and yet, custody still gets changed as if the one parent who everyone else is denying the information was telling the truth.
Really?
So,
since I filed to run for this department, I have probably heard, I've heard from dozens and dozens of people regarding decisions. And now I take it all with a grain of salt, okay? I realize that in every case that there's an opposing position. But just the sheer number of people that I've heard from about it's concerning. It's concerning to say the least. It's almost as if you've got a Jekyll Hyde situation here. You don't know which judge you're going to be faced with when you walk into that courtroom. 3 years ago, I would never have considered running against this judge. I've voted for this judge in the last election.
And I did too. And if she would have remained consistent with the way that she was at that time, I would never have considered running.
Well, let me ask you both of you this night, because you're both still practicing. Now, what happens? Do you practice in front of this judge now?
I will pay $450 every time to make sure I do not practice in front of her.
That's referred to as a peremptory challenge, Ed.
I will peremptory challenge her every time.
Parties in the state of Nevada have the right to change judges one time for no reason whatsoever. You only have to pay a fee. It's referred to as a peremptory challenge. So I think what Mary is saying is she would advise her clients, regardless of the factual situation, to expend the $450 to change judges that one time for no reason. Remember I talked a little bit ago about the clients complaining about the cost associated with a case? Well, when you have a judge that you don't trust to make a decision in the case, and you spend an additional $450 to change that judge, can you see why the cost of the litigation goes up? My answer to your question is, at this particular point in time, I have no active cases pending before Department L. I would think that next week, if I had a case assigned to Department L, she would recuse herself from the case because I'm a challenger to her in this election. If she weren't to recuse herself from the case, I wouldn't expend the $450. I would probably take steps to have her recused based upon some sort of bias argument. So right now, I have no issues pending before her.
Gotcha.
I haven't had a case in front of her for 2 years.
Okay. Now, but is that a common kind of thing that where because I know a lot of lawyers run for judge and they have to appear in front of that judge sooner or later. Is that a common thing where you would have to avoid the judge in the future? If she defeat me in the election, I don't really know what her position would be thereafter. I would probably wait until my first case was assigned to her department to see what action she would take before I would advise my client to expend the funds. I would think she would probably recuse from my cases in the future. I don't think it's mandatory, but I think you never want to give in my opinion, a judge never wants to give the impression of impartiality from the bench, and just the fact that impression would be there, I would hope she would take it upon herself to recuse from my cases.
Yes. Paul, I think you went the wrong way. It's lack of impartiality.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask a question.
It's excusable.
If Mary had one, would you be worried about her? I don't think so, right?
About Mary appearing before me? No.
Yeah.
There was no contention between Mary and I during our campaign against one another. As a matter of fact, I think Mary will verify. Several other candidates on the campaign trail commented about how well Mary and I got along.
They did. They couldn't believe that we would stand around, talk, laugh, joke, whatever, compare notes even. And, it's just, we both knew that this judge needed to be replaced.
Gotcha.
My little boy, Mary met my little boy at an event. My little boy told me when we got back to the court, Dad, she's a really nice lady.
Oh.
Well, you watch out. Was that the 18-year-old? Maybe he might vote for her.
No.
That's a little, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so real quick, before I got to read some ads, do you have any other questions, Mary, before we, because I want to ask you guys to give your endorsements to in every department.
Oh,
I can't.
Paul cannot endorse, and I still have to appear in front of those sitting, and they have to appear in front of those who win. So I'm not willing to go public on any of them unless I was willing to run against them.
Gotcha.
And I got to tell you, I would be willing to do it, but I'm prohibited from doing it.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let me read some live ads, and you guys think up some good questions for each other, okay?
Okay.
And I just got to make some money here. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, everybody remembers Amanda over at Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. Her email address is demroots@oppermail.com, and her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. Now, she just tells us tonight that she's getting a brand new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, laminates made from Ottawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown, produced, and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly standards. Okay, now Amanda, everybody knows Amanda, she's an environmentalist. She's up there in Portland, Oregon. She's been servicing the Northwest for 10 years, but she can and does ship nationwide her bamboo products. If any kind of project you have going on that you think you might need bamboo for crafts or for a construction project, flooring, get a hold of Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. And then we got good old Mike Gray. Hey, someone shaking up a drink over there? We can hear you. Okay. What are you doing over there? You playing dice?
I'm feeding cats.
Are you playing feeding cats? Okay. During Pacific West Bamboo? Okay. Then we have infinityhomeplans.com. Good old Mike Gray at infinityhomeplans.com. Everybody knows Mike Gray because he likes to call into the after shows. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D, 2D architectural services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawing sets, 3D models, renderings, and more. Emailrevealer.com. Hey, do you need to locate somebody? Are you looking for somebody? You need a long-lost relative, a skip trace? Go to emailrevealer.com. You can practically an instant locate. You can locate them within 24 hours. All kinds of, you need a name and address, my phone number. You need a name and address, my email address. Go to emailrevealer.com. New World Mexican Women. Okay, these are these beautiful women in the town of Guerrero, in the state of Guerrero, Mexico. Okay, these are lovely women down there in the state, and what they've done is they've written this book with these love letters to their husbands, their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, and these beautiful handwritten letters. You can see them written first in Spanish and then typed out, translated in English. And then the second half of the book is all their stuff about, how to make authentic Mexican jewelry. It's a beautiful, colorful book. You can put on your coffee table, and it's definitely a conversation piece. And they're great supporters of the show, and these New World Mexican women. We love them. Okay, but we're here tonight with good old Paul Gaudet, who is running for judge here in Department L, Clark County, Nevada Family Court. His website is paulgaudet4judge.com. That's PaulGaudet4judge.com. paulgaudet4judge.com. Hey, Mary, and we're here with Mary Perry, too, who has you got to look at her bio on the Opperman Report blog. She talks about chopping wood and baling hay and all this stuff. She's had some life, Air Force, all this kind of great stuff. I tell you, I was reading this, man. I'm impressed. Mary, do you have a website?
I do not have a website right now. I am in the process of reinventing myself. With recent occurrences, I've had a family member who had a stroke, and then I've got an aunt who was diagnosed with cancer. So I am looking at seeing how many states I can take the bar in now, so I can help my family out.
Well, Mary, let me tell you something. The Opperman Report audience are prayerful people. We like to pray for each other. So if you want to give out the name of your husband and your aunt there, we will pray for them.
Donna Cooper is my aunt, and Rick Morales is my husband.
So we will definitely keep your family in prayer there, Mary. Thank you very much. So have you guys, did you come up with any other tough questions? I could get some tough questions for Paul.
I can't think of any tough questions for him. I would love to come up with lots of tough questions for the other party, though.
Oh, well, then let's say.
Well, I got on that issue, and I want the listeners to know, I would welcome the opportunity to see my opponent on the campaign trail and to discuss issues with my. However, I've now been on the campaign trail for a period of approximately 8 months, and I have seen my opponent on the campaign trail a single time, one time. So, I don't know how to get. I was invited to participate in the debate last week. I went there. I prepared for the debate. I was ready to go. I was the only one there. So instead of debating, I was given 15 minutes to discuss my position on the issues. I too, Mary, I would love to be able to sit down and discuss the issues that I see in Department L with the incumbent. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't seem to be given that opportunity on the campaign trail.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to back it up. I saw her twice. I did see her 2 times on the campaign trail. And I was out there from November until June.
Well, does she look like her campaign poster?
No. She does not.
Honestly, the one time I did see my opponent, I didn't recognize. I was over. I think Mary was there also. I was over in Mesquite at a women's club function, and she was there. And honestly, I didn't recognize her until they actually called her name to speak. So.
Well, there you go. Well, okay. Well, now, what if your opponent was here today? What kind of questions would you ask of her, both of you?
I would ask my opponent why she chooses to utilize a diagnose and fix method in resolving these custody cases. I would ask my opponent to substantiate to the public why she has missed so much time from the bench. I would ask my opponent to describe to the taxpayers of Clark County, Nevada, why we were required to pay her for the substantial time she missed, in addition to paying senior judges to take her place. I would ask my opponent why she relies upon other judges at the courthouse to cover her calendar. I would ask my opponent why all the referrals. I would ask my opponent whether she believes she is contributing to a cottage industry that has been created by this family court system in making those referrals. I would ask my opponent whether she thinks it's conducive to keep a family before her court quite often for 12 to 18 months. I have a list of questions that I would like to put before my opponent to have questions, to have answered, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I and the voters of Clark County, Nevada get no answers to these questions.
Mary, do you have any?
I don't think I've been able to think of any other ones than what he's just, put out there without really sitting down and going back over my past notes that I had.
Well,
I could throw others. I would ask my opponent why she refused to comply with the provisions of of our Nevada Constitution. It goes on and on. I could probably come up with 100 questions right now that I would like answers from the incumbent on.
Well, let me ask a question for both of you, because you described a second ago the cottage industry of these custody evaluators and therapists, and also to even real estate appraisers and forensic accountants that get these in classes. Forget classes. Go to the anger management. Go to this class. Go to that parenting class. Go to these different classes. Okay, now it seems to me, as a innocent guy just doing a little radio show here, trying to make my way across the world, that there's a lot of money changing hands in that process. And when there's a lot of money, there's also, along with it, corruption. Now, I'm not just saying just with this judge or with this your opponent, but in all of Clark County, family court, this is pretty outrageous what's going on, don't you think?
Well, I can't make a comment with regards to I don't have any personal knowledge of there being any corruption. I do question when a family court judge takes a custody case and sends that case out for an evaluation with full knowledge that that evaluation is going to cost what, Mary, $2,500 to $7,500 to the party.
Yes.
I question that. Now I'm not going to say there's corruption involved, but common sense should tell you that it's the judge's job to make those decisions, and you don't defer those decisions to other quote-unquote professionals at an additional cost to the parties participating in a case before a Clark County courtroom.
Mary, did you have something you want to say?
Well, I have to agree. I do not know of any corruption that's going on down there in family court. Sometimes when a judge decides against me, I may say, obviously bought off, but that's just me, spouting off, and I don't mean anything by it, and I don't say it publicly. I'm going to take it one step further. I spent a long time looking through the cases that was appearing in front of Jennifer Elliott over the last 18 months. She pretty much only uses one evaluator every single time.
And who is that?
And
I saw some
Stephanie Holland.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Stephanie Holland. And and rumor. Well, I'm not going to go that far because we're public here. But when a judge consistently uses the same person every single time, it makes you wonder why. Especially when you've got Mark Chambers, Gary Linkite, and a whole plethora of other therapists and psychologists out here that could do the same thing, and sometimes cheaper.
It's sure we can't prove anything, okay? And we can't make accusations or fly off the handle and make accusations. But the thing is, when there is that kind of money, huge amounts, like just Paul Gaudet just described, $7,500 for a custody evaluation for working middle class families, okay, that are willing, they're desperate, they're willing to go into hock to come up with that kind of money. The temptation is there. The appearance is there. That, you know, when you have the same people getting these checks, $7,500 checks, day after day after day after day, they become very powerful people, and it's open to corruption.
Well, and it gives the appearance that instead of doing what she should do, Jennifer Elliott should be sitting back and relying on her law degree and her legal training to make these decisions. But by sending it out to a therapist and a psychologist to come up and make that decision, she is trusting the psychology world more than she is the legal world.
Right.
And it's two separate professions for two separate reasons. You can't make a psychological.
Mary, this gets right back to the conversation that Ed and I had at the beginning of the show. It is a different ideology, methodology to administration of a court, and that is at the essence of my disagreement with how she is conducting business in Department L. It is not the job of the judge to defer those most important decisions to someone else. It is the job of the judge to hear the facts, to hear the argument, apply the law to the facts, and ultimately make decisions. And it's just a bit. I hope the listeners have picked up on this. I am going to operate the courtroom traditionally. I'm going to be the judge. The attorneys are going to put on evidence before me. I am going to announce findings, and I am going to make decisions. I am not going to send parties outside my courtroom to therapists, to evaluators, to counselors to have those people report back to me. It is my job to determine the facts, not someone else's.
And I agree with him. You know, it's the judge's job to make those decisions. So there are times where he may need a little bit of assistance of those outside worlds. I mean, you know, there comes a time where even a judge can recognize that there's possible mental illness on one side.
Sure.
Yeah.
May not be able to diagnose it, but they can say, okay, this mother or this father has got some severe problems. Are the kids going to be safe? And at that point, I have enough faith in Paul to know that he would reach out to the other professionals to attempt to keep the children safe.
Gotcha.
But just because we say, you know what, that person's crazy, that's no reason to send them out for an evaluation.
Oh yeah, both my parents were crazy. That turned out pretty good.
Yes, Ed, I'm gonna give you a phrase, and I hope your listeners pick up on this. What I refer to what has gone on in Department L for 12 years now as a social experiment that has proved not to work. It doesn't work. That's why she has these low judicial ratings, because the practicing attorneys, the litigants that they represent, leave the courtroom knowing that her system of administering justice is not productive for the voters of Clark County. It doesn't work.
But this has been going on for 12 years?
She's about ready to finish her second term, 2 6-year terms.
Oh my God!
It has become more prevalent in the past 6 years that she's relying more on psychology than she is on the law. So the first 6 years you couldn't, it was different, and the results were good because she really put the effort in to make sure that everything matched with the law. Now she's forgetting the law.
Yeah,
but this could go on another 6 years. God forbid, this could.
Correct.
This showing up for work half the time could go on another 6 years.
Well, what's interesting about what Mary just said, she makes a very, very good point. The first 6 years of her, the first term, her first 6 years, she was much more conscientious in what she was doing. The 2009 was the start of her second term. Almost immediately following being elected the second time, is when the problem started with the attendance. It's almost ironic. The voters gave her a second term as of November of 2008. 2009, it started. She started missing substantial amounts of time from work.
So that's amazing. So she would be reelected again. Who knows? It could get worse.
Well, I saw an interview with her, and Mary may have been present for this interview. I think it was before the Asian American group, if I'm not mistaken. But issue was made of her attendance, and she actually said, "Well, 2013, I did a much better job." Well, my response to that is, you're running for re-election. I mean, my goodness, if you don't have the common sense to start going to work the year that you're about, November, December preceding the January where you're about to file for another term. I mean, I would hope she has the senses to do something like that. But the voters need to know it. They put her in office again immediately following the voters putting her in office for another term is when the problems with the attendance started.
It's almost like a guy says, "What do you mean I don't show up for work? I come every Friday to get my check."
Well, anymore they just deposit it into her checking account, so she doesn't have to show up on Fridays.
Exactly. It's direct deposit.
I tell you guys, we sit here and we laugh, and it is funny to a certain extent, but it's sad. It's really, really sad, and it's taking advantage of our community, in one guy's humble opinion.
Yeah, because lives are destroyed over this kind of thing. It really is sad. Yeah. So now, Paul, we're down to like the last 15 minutes. If people want to volunteer, and they want to come pick up signs and stuff like that, and they want to donate money, because I got people listening from all over the world, from the UK and Ireland, all kind of. How could people donate to you, and how could they volunteer for you?
Well, first off, if they wanted to send a check, the check should be made to Gaudet for Judge, sent to the address 715 South 4th Street, Las Vegas, Nevada 89101. In addition to that, they can donate directly from the donate buttons on the website. It's all done through PayPal. In addition to that, I'm having another meet and greet on this Tuesday. I shouldn't say this Tuesday. The Tuesday that's coming, September 23rd. We're going to have it at the new location of Lola's Restaurant, which, if I'm not mistaken, the address is 1220 Town Center over in Summerlin. That's going on from 6 to 8. Besides that, if anyone wants to contact me via email for signs or via Facebook for signs, I will do my best to make sure that signs, bumper stickers are forwarded to anyone that's willing to post my materials for me. In addition to that, I can't hit the campaign trail much harder than I've been hitting the campaign trail. I feel like what's the old saying? He's everywhere. I feel like I've been everywhere for a while. But if you see me out at any sort of event, come up, introduce yourself to me. I think, during the last hour and a half, I have no problem discussing the issues. I'm all ears. I want to hear what the public feels are issues. I want to state what I feel are issues. We can agree to disagree on different things, but I want to hear as much as I can regarding what the public believes should be done in the family court system. I think ultimately, when and if I'm elected, that makes me a better judge if I understand everything that's going on. So people can contact me. My phone number is 702-385-7475. My email is set forth on my website, which you've stated a couple of times, www.paulgaudetforjudge.com. And a lot of information is contained on my website. The other thing I'd refer your viewers to, what we did, and this I haven't seen any other candidate do it, but I think it's somewhat unique. I actually posted a bunch of real short video blogs on my website. What I tried to do was cover some of the various issues that come up in family court, and I don't think the longest one is over 3 minutes. They're short, concise, direct, where I give my position on a lot of the issues that come up over at the family courthouse. I strongly suggest that the listeners go to the website and click on those. It'll give you a good idea of who I am and my position on the various issues.
Okay, great. So, Mary, how about yourself? What if somebody needed a good lawyer like you, Mary? How would they find you?
Well, they can give me a call. My office number is 384-9911, and, of course, it's area code 702. And I have been referred to as a bulldog in the courtroom. But if you're in front of Department L right now, please don't call, because I will not take the case that is in front of her.
Gotcha. Now, Mary, you only do family court now, family law?
I only do family law. I will occasionally dabble in a little bit of criminal law or traffic tickets and sometimes PI if it's a current client.
Gotcha.
Or a friend.
What about you, Paul? Just family law right now?
I'm sorry, Ed?
Paul, you only do family law now?
No, I do. Family law makes up about 60 to 70% of my practice. I have a general civil litigation practice also. I do commercial lit, I do real estate lit, I do some personal injury. I'll put it to you this way, Ed. Over my career, I think I've tried over 500 cases. I've actually tried 60 to 70 jury trials also. My experience is pretty broad. Like I told you at the beginning, I've been in a courtroom quite a bit. I put my courtroom experience up against most of the attorneys' practices in Clark County. And by the way, those trials that I've had have all been in private practice. I've never been in public.
Yeah, well, both of you are very well-known. Both of you are very well-known lawyers here in town. Hey, by the way, I just want to mention one more time. I got a note from one of the station owners over here that freedomsips.com is a listener-supported radio station. And so if you want to support what you're hearing right now, you got to go to freedomsips.com and click on the donate button. Okay? All right, guys, great. Thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate you both coming on here. What do you want to leave us with before you go? Because we're down to like the last 10 minutes.
Mary, I'll let you go first on that.
All right, the one thing that I want to make sure is that people do their homework before they go out and vote. It doesn't matter whether you're voting for a judge, for congressman and senate, or even the president. Do your homework, because just voting for someone because you like the way they look, they look like you, they sound like you, they act like you, is not a good enough reason to put them in office. You need to realize a judge can destroy your life today. It takes a little bit longer than that for a president to do you. So be very careful at what judge you vote for, because you're stuck with them for 6 years.
That's so true. But, Mary, we all know that there's judges on the bench right now that have really bad ratings for years and years and years, but it's the name recognition that gets them reelected every time.
Yes. And it's, and I don't think people are putting enough behind, acquaint yourself with the person, not the name. Just because you hear the name, it could be because, they're being charged in federal court for something.
Yeah.
It may not be something good is the reason why you recognize the name. So educate yourself on who you're voting for.
What about the local press? Do you think the local press does their job, or you think they're just all part of the club too?
I think they're part of the club too. They've got their favorites out there, and if they like the person, they're not going to report anything back.
Yeah.
If they don't like the person, they're going to nail them every time they turn around. I mean, it's human nature to match with the people you like.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Well, I guess we might as well call it a night, because Paul was very, very kind to stay extra time with us. I know, Paul, you wanted to spend some time with your youngest son, and you were very gracious to give us the extra 50 minutes tonight. I really appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
No, thank you very much. And if people want to look up Paul Gaudet for Judge.com, I'm going to have a link to his, the link's already up on the Opperman Report blog, and also on the Opperman Report Facebook page, and the Opperman Report, this will be on YouTube and stuff like that. And good old Mary Perry is a real character. She's on my Facebook all the time, always with some kind of a political commentary.
And a lot of my political commentary is just so that I can irritate people and get them to talk.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, people definitely do talk. You definitely do generate a lot of talk there. So, okay, guys, thank you both. Listen, thank you both very, very much for coming on. We do need change. in Clark County Family Court. I mean, I think in every department. But after hearing what I heard tonight, it sounds like we need some big changes in Department L. So thank you both, and I look forward to seeing you at the voting booth.
Absolutely. Ed, I really appreciate your time. And once again, if any of the voters want to meet me, come on out to the meet and greet on Tuesday the 23rd from 6 to 8 at Lola's. And most importantly, get out there and vote. We the voters, have the opportunity to make a change. And we're not going to do it if we don't get out there and vote. So thank you for having me, Ed. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much, sir. And Mary?
And thank you, Ed.
No, thank you, Mary. I love you. You know that, man. Thank you for everything.
Okay.
Okay. I'll talk to you guys
later.
Good night.
Right. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, and that was Paul Gaudet. Let me see if I can find all the information here. Paul Gaudet for judge. Really cool guy. I really impressed me tonight. And his initial is Paul M. Gaudet, and he's running for family court judge in Department L here in Clark County, Nevada. So hopefully, if you live here in Clark County, Nevada, you know, you're going to get off your butt and vote. And we have to, you know, kick these tyrants out. But if you don't, you know, if you're out there on the West Coast or, you know, the UK or whatever like that, you can, donate to his campaign by going to his blog, which is on my website. Now, we're going to be doing a little after show. I got a couple of announcements I want to make. You can call in to the after show. Oh, you know what? I'm only taking Skype messages from now on the after show. So it's ed.opperman. So any of the regular Skypers who like to Skype in, want to chat for a while and talk about stuff going on here in Clark County or whatever's on your mind, we could probably do another hour tonight. No problem. So what we're going to do is, at the hour break, we're going to drop good old Revolution Radio, and we're going to drop Hazy Radio, but we're going to be on live with CJ Mars, 365 Live. And let's see, we got, coming up, don't want you guys to forget, coming up, we got Ward Churchill coming up in a couple of weeks. We got Danny Sheehan, which is a fascinating guy. You got to look up his Wikipedia page. Incredible cases he's worked on over there. Civil rights attorney. Maybe we can get him down to Clark County here in Nevada and knock these tyrants out. Don't forget to, I have my GoFundMe.com account. It's called Help Save My Family. And you can go to that, GoFundMe.com, and you look up Help Save My Family by Ed Opperman. Hey, good night. Well, we're going to say good night to good old Revolution Radio, and we're going to say good night to good old Hazy Radio. And I'm going to ask CJ Mars Radio to play a nice little music for us. And I'll see you guys next week. I love you all. Good night.